Happy Monday, football fans. Hope it was a great week one for you. You have found Behind the Lines, part of the Lines podcast presented by BetMGM. My name is Stephen Andress, managing editor at TheLines.com, joined each and every Monday by Christian Cipollini, sports trader at BetMGM. On this show, we are going to look back at week one, see what were the biggest public wins, what were the biggest public losses, take a look ahead to Monday Night Football, and also give you the opening lines at BetMGM for week number 2. I will also share an early bet I have locked into my own BetMGM account for week number 2. Christian, how are you? How was week 1 for both you personally and the book?
I'm great. It's great to be back. Okay, personally, but the book did well too. So, good, not great for the book this week.
Yeah, I always feel kind of like awkward asking how you're doing because like we were talking about the book and all the money they probably made or lost one week. I'm like, let's just not talk about the book. How are you doing, man? Like it's not just about the money, for God's sakes here.
Football's back. Couldn't be better.
There we go. I love it. All right, so let's dig in here. Let's look at week number 1 and let's look at what were the biggest public wins in week number 1. Where did the book get hit a little bit here?
The book got hit very big on Ravens Jets. We couldn't write a Jets ticket. We had 92% of our money line, 93% of our spread bets were all on the Ravens, and Jets weren't even close to covering. So not a chance for the book on that one. And that was our most bet on game actually in the early slate of games too. So not a good result there. And then the 4:00 window, the best one for the book, the second best public win of the day was the Chiefs as well. We had about 70% of our money, 70 to 75% of our money on the Chiefs spread and money line. So another one where they ran away with it too. It was never really close. So those are the two bad ones for the book.
Yeah, bad combo there, I think, from the Chiefs game, because that was, I believe, a lot of sharp money early and a lot of public money late there to move that line, because I think a few weeks ago that one was closer to 3.5. We're at 6.5 at kickoff. Just one-sided action there for sure on Kansas City, and all the injuries on Arizona didn't make things any easier for you guys trying to get Arizona to come in there on the other side. And then with the New York Jets, I was actually impressed with how they moved the ball. I mean, they outgained Baltimore 378 to 274. Now on a per play basis, it was Baltimore 5.2 to New York Jets 4.8. And ultimately, I think, Joe Flacco's the quarterback and there's not much they can do. So, but that leaves some question marks for me on defense for Baltimore moving forward here, and whether or not this passing game can do anything, because hey, we're still looking at Lamar Jackson only having 213 passing yards in that game, and they didn't have the rushing to go with it. They only had 63 rushing yards as a team on 21 carries, so less than 4 yards per clip. We may be talking about this game a little bit later here in their next opponent in week 2. We'll see. But on the flip side here, Christian, what were the biggest public losses for week 1? I'm guessing there was a decent amount here.
Yeah, there was a couple that were big ones, but for the most part, it was just kind of little wins for the book here and there. The biggest one that we had for sure was the Giants beating the Titans. We had about 87% of our money line bets, 75% of our spread bets were on the Titans there. So no one kind of saw that Giants win coming.
Except for the staff of TheLines.com. If you're listening to our podcast, a bunch of us were on the Titans +6, +5.5. Brian Dable era is not the Joe Judge era. We've been bullish on them, and we've been very bearish on the Titans. So, hey, another reason for everybody to listen here. I know Eli Hershkovich, Mo Noir, and Nicole Russo were also on the Giants last week. So you can listen to us Mondays for the sportsbook perspective. And then on Tuesdays, Behind the Closing Line is a new show on both our podcast feed and also our YouTube channel to help you guys beat the closing line ahead of kickoff on Sunday. So interesting nuggets there for sure. Let's run through now the Monday night matchup here, Christian. Is there anything that could happen in this that will sway the result for week 1 for you guys?
Probably won't sway it, but we have 95% of our money on the Broncos. We can't write a Seahawks ticket, and I don't think we're going to up until kickoff. So hoping it just slows down, and then maybe that Seahawks can just hang on and cover that 6.5. But I'm not too sure. Public doesn't think so.
Yeah, I can't blame them. We've talked all offseason about how the Seahawks have one of the worst rosters, maybe the worst roster in the NFL, bottom five position units all up and down that roster. I believe a lot of books have moved that from 6.5 to 7 as of today. There's it gone forever sticking at 6.5. I think you guys are you still at 6.5 or are you at
We're
7 as we record Monday
I think
morning?
we're just moving it now to 7.
Yeah, so there we go. A little bit of line movement finally in this first Monday night matchup. Russell Wilson going back to Seattle for his debut with the Denver Broncos. All right, let's look at week 2 here, Christian, the openers for week number 2 at BetMGM. And we will start with the Thursday night matchup, the best game on paper of this early season, in my opinion.
Yeah, should be a great one. Chargers at Chiefs. Currently, we're at Chiefs minus 3.5. Totals 54.5.
So that number has moved off the look ahead line. I think we were mostly at a flat 3 on the look ahead here. And with the Chiefs' impressive performance, also Keenan Allen likely missing this game with a hamstring injury. J.C. Jackson still highly questionable, the top corner for the Los Angeles Chargers. So thus the line movement, I think, there to 3.5 for the Kansas City Chiefs as the home favorite. But should be a really good one here. And I'm very curious to see. I'm not sure I'm going to bet this game. I think this is just highly entertaining in terms of a football game. But I am very curious to see the Chiefs against an actual defense because Arizona was just so injured and lost so much talent this offseason. They just didn't have any answer whatsoever for Patrick Mahomes. Let's see how they look against the Los Angeles Chargers, who made a ton of investments on the defensive side, knowing they'd have to play Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs twice a year this year. Let's look at the early slate of week 2 games, the 1 o'clock Eastern time window here, Christian. And we'll start with the Jets and the Browns and then just kind of roll through there for us the opening spreads for these games.
Yeah, Jets at Browns. Browns minus 6.5. And that totals 40.5. Then we have Commanders at the Lions. Lions are 1.5 point favorites currently. Totals 48.5. Colts at Jaguars. Colts are 4.5 point favorites on the road. Total 45.5. Bucks at Saints. Bucks are 2.5 point favorites. Totals 45.5. Panthers at Giants. Giants are 2.5 point favorites currently with that total 42.5. And Patriots at Steelers. Patriots 1.5 point road favorites, and that totals 40.5. And finally, the last one of our 1 o'clock slate should learn a little bit about the Ravens here. Dolphins at Ravens. Currently, the Ravens are 3.5 point favorites with a total 43.5.
I think that's the game I have my eye on here. If I was going to bet a game early this week, I think it will be the Miami Dolphins. I think there is growing respect for this Dolphins team in the market, and with I think there's admittedly, listen, like I came on our Megapod on Friday. I was in agreement with Matt Brown and Adam Candy that at that point I would never lay 3.5 with a team that has Tua as their quarterback. But from what we saw in terms of the aggressiveness and the new offensive mindset of Mike McDaniel and having Jalen Waddle and having Tyreek Hill, if he's going to install kind of this Kyle Shanahan-esque offense where Tua is just asked to get rid of the ball and the scheme is allowing these speed receivers to get into the open field and get a lot of yak, then I am very curious to see if this new look Dolphins team can cover this 3.5. I will be interested in playing them, I think, throughout this season as underdogs, and I think this is going to be a spot where I add them to my betting card as well. Because coming into the season, I was not as high on the Baltimore Ravens as I think a lot of people were in the market. I thought it was a bit aggressive to make them the favorite in the division. Now, I know Cincinnati's offensive line looked like crap again week 1, but we'll see how that plays out over the course of the season. I do have concerns about Lamar Jackson as a passer. And that defense didn't quite gel in week 1 either. It's just 1 week. I'm not putting a ton into that. I'm trying not to overreact. But in cases where I do want to react appropriately from week 1 to week 2 are situations where you have new, innovative offensive minds. And I think Mike McDaniel may fit into that situation. Let's move on to the late slate of games here, Christian, the 4 o'clock Eastern time slate of games and the opening lines at BetMGM.
Yeah, Falcons at Rams. Rams are 10-point favorites, total 47.5. Seahawks at 49ers. That line is currently at 8.5 for the 49ers, total 42. Bengals at Cowboys. With Dak's injury now, Bengals are 7-point road favorites, total 44.5. Texans at Broncos. Broncos are 10-point favorites, total 43.5. Finally, last one of the 4 o'clock slate. Cardinals at Raiders. Raiders 3.5-point favorites, total 51.5.
I would maybe jump on that 49ers line if you want a teaser leg here, people, at 8.5. I think that's going to evaporate. We've already seen a couple of books move that outside teaser range to 9.5. If you want to take the chance that Seattle looks good tonight and beats the Broncos handily and that line's going to move, go right ahead, be my guest. But I am very happy, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Niners fan. I thought they really, came up awfully short in that Chicago game. But as a handicapper of the NFL, when you have conditions like that at Soldier Field with how bad it was raining, and also with the fumbles that Deebo Samuel had in that game, there are a lot of reasons to give the Niners another crack here, especially against a roster as bad as Seattle. So am I interested in laying more than a touchdown with Trey Lance as the quarterback? No, I am not. Am I interested in teasing it down through the 7 and the 3 at home against a putrid Seattle roster? Yes, I am. Okay, primetime slate here. Not only the Sunday night game, Christian, but we have a week 2 Monday night doubleheader, which should be fun.
Yeah, that's right. Sunday night, Bears at Packers. Packers currently 9.5-point favorites, total 42.5. The first of the Monday night games is Titans at Bills. Bills are 9.5-point favorites, and the total is 49.5. And then the later game of the Monday night, Vikings at Eagles. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites, and the total is 50.5.
Final bet for me in the early week 2 slate here is a teaser leg. I mentioned the 49ers as the first leg. The Vikings will be the second leg for me here. I was so incredibly impressed. We mentioned Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins and their new look offensive mindset and scheme. Man, Kevin O'Connell's Vikings offense looked great. Part of that was the Packers being idiots and not putting their high-priced corner Jair Alexander in shadow coverage and letting Justin Jefferson just run rampant all over the place. But that's a pretty strong Packers defense that they looked pretty good against. I think that the Eagles have some issues here on defense this year, and I'm going to talk more about it on the Friday Megapod. They have a ton of talent on defense, but we now have a growing sample size that their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, doesn't quite know what to do with it against good offenses. So we'll dive into that a little bit more on Friday, but that's my teaser leg here for the early week 2 action. Vikings up to 8.5, 49ers down to -2.5. Christian, as always, appreciate your insight from the book over at BetMGM. And thank you for listening, everybody. We will again be back tomorrow. Nicole, Mo, and Eli with Beat the Closing Line. Wednesday, I'll be on with Brett Gibbons for our college football podcast. We'll also have a Survivor video here on YouTube with Matt Brown and myself earlier this week. And I'll give him all kinds of rubbings and lickings for barely having New Orleans survive in a circa contest this week. So we'll see about that. Barely getting the last second field goal with the Saints. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated 2 weeks in a row in week 1. And then, of course, we'll have our Megapod on Friday to going through every single game of the week 2 slate. As always, for the best offers at BetMGM, be sure to check out the link in the description, or you can go to thelines.com under the drop-down button. Hit BetMGM to find the best available bonus offer in your state if you're looking for a new account. For Christian, I'm Stephen. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.